Christmas is the best. It's my favorite time of year. The decorations, I love Christmas lights.
Christmas. Yeah, I like Christmas.
Christmas is not my favorite time of the year.
It has a lot of meaning behind it.
I don't really celebrate Christmas, but I enjoy Christmas.
There's that spirit, right? And the whole idea of it is to be good to each other and to, you know, be generous and kind.
I do like Christmas. What's not to like?
My earliest memory of Christmas.
My earliest memory of Christmas, oh, wow.
My earliest memory of Christmas? Oh man, I know it precisely.
One of my early memories of Christmas,
I got Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah, my earliest memory of Christmas probably when I was around 6 years old.
I remember getting dressed up. Everyone gets really dressed up, like we're actually going out somewhere even though we're just going to someone's house. We go and we wait around till midnight, and then at midnight Santa comes.
I remember waking up in the middle of the night and hearing someone downstairs. I was at least 5, 6. I swore it was Santa Claus.
They come, they get dressed up, and everyone's like, oh my God, Santa's coming. And then Santa comes down the steps and hands out gifts for like 5 minutes before he gets too hot in his suit and has to go.
And I heard someone downstairs, took a peek, the cookies were missing. And I was like, it's gotta be Santa Claus. Years later, I realized that maybe my dad came downstairs for a midnight snack.
It will probably be 8 o'clock Christmas Eve, and there'll be about 5 boxes under the tree or something. And then we'll come down and it's just presents covered.
But it was nice to think that it was Santa Claus, Saint Nick.
I got the Nintendo system, like the original Nintendo, and you know, it came with like Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers. But that's not why I wanted Nintendo. I wanted Nintendo for the Tecmo Super Bowl. All my friends had it. I wanted to have it. And it got to my last gift, and it was one of those boxes that, you know, is like a clothing box. And I opened it, and it was like a sweater from Grandma. And I was like so shattered and disappointed. And as I pulled the sweater out fell Tecmo Super Bowl.
There was this game that came out. You shot these metal balls, almost like air hockey, but it was a smaller, with a metal ball in between that would roll, and you'd shoot these metal balls at this ball and try to get it to it. I don't even remember the name of the game.
when we were kids, my parents would, we would go out one night in the middle of December and we would like drive around on Long Island and see like the people who like really decked out their houses. Like that was something we did. We like went hunting for the best decorations.
My sisters and I would sit in the backseat of the car whenever we'd go anywhere. And we'd have this competition, like, how you look out that side of the window, I'm gonna look at this, and we're gonna count the Christmas trees.
Every year my mom still would always tell us the story of Christmas. You know, the night Jesus was born, and you get the stories about how everyone came bearing gifts, and the story of Mary and Joseph, all the fun stuff.
The whole story itself is interesting because it's not really this happy-go-lucky story like everyone paints it to be. The biblical story of Jesus Christ being born is kind of rough around the edges.
Christmas from the Christian perspective is Christ coming to earth.
It's a family, a young family that didn't know really what was going on in their lives and had to run away and were running away from persecution, to have a child in a barn.
And a time of, which is really ironic, especially right now, that he was turned away, him and his mother were turned away, you know? So I understand the importance of being welcoming. And I love that that's reinforced this time of year.
There was this long-awaited Messiah in the Jewish culture that they had awaited for, believing that he was going to be a king, that was going to conquer, that was going to rule.
Christians believe it is the Son of God. So that's kind of an interesting story that we make so happy and like Santa Claus and elves and everything's so great. When in actuality, it's not that at all.
Christmas means the birth of Jesus Christ.
It's pretty common historically known Jesus was not born December 25th. That wasn't the season even in which he would have been born. Most likely, I think they point to springtime. I think it's April or May or something.
I can't remember exactly, but I do remember reading that the church decided that they would celebrate, you know, the birth of Christ at this time to just, yeah, lighten the mood.
So with that being the case, it's more of a representation, I guess, of this one year we pause and we stop and we think about this. It's not necessarily the chronological birthday of Jesus. If we don't teach the history of it, it can certainly shatter somebody who their whole life they've believed very literally about that.
A lot of religions have like some of the same holidays that tend to sync up, and they're usually like springtime and fall harvest, and this is like a winter solstice.
Well, I've read about in history that they did to cheer things up, and where the green garlands and things came from was to add some color to the earth at a time, you know, in countries where it's like just miserable this time of year.
When you look at most holidays, they're pagan holidays. You can reject it and just say no, and a lot of people did. Or you can redeem it. And I think what happened was a lot of people said, how do we redeem this to bring in some Christian ethics, some Christian values? But I think there's something beautiful about saying, hey, history's flexible, and history is about recognizing it's a collection of people making history, and they all come from different perspectives. And so this is where we've landed, and how do we keep restoring Christmas, I guess.
Maybe the reason we have a holiday this time of year that has so much to do with lights, like Hanukkah is similar in that way, that it's also about light, is that, yeah, it gets dark really fucking early this time of year, and people want to turn the lights on. Hi, my name's Alex Rabinowitz, and I'm Jewish. Yeah, it's Christmas time, and this is something that the whole country does, and you know, we don't celebrate this specific holiday, but we have our own. This is the food of my people. As far as Hanukkah goes, I can remember very well, like my parents, us lighting candles, giving us gifts, and it's only become a more significant holiday because it coincides with Christmas and because of the gift-giving culture. Growing up, Hanukkah was really great. We did a lot of the traditional stuff. There's a ritual to light the candles every night. You have a Hanukkah, or also known as menorah. So the first night you light one candle, second night you light 2 candles, and so forth on to the 8th night. You do that right at sundown for every night, for each of the 8 nights of Hanukkah. We would make latkes, which are potato pancakes, donuts, jelly donuts. The common theme there is oil. The story of Hanukkah is a small group of Jewish fighters, the Maccabees, were revolting against the oppressive government at the time, and they only had enough oil to light the candles for one night, and then it ended up lasting 8 nights, and it was a miracle. And that's the miracle of Hanukkah. I can't remember in my life my parents ever like having to be like, no, we don't celebrate that, or no, Santa doesn't come to our house. But it was always just a given, like, we celebrate Hanukkah at this time of year, and a lot of people we knew celebrated Hanukkah, and that's just like what it is and what it was, and it was fine. It was fine. It was great. It was. We get, you know, as kids, you're excited because it's 8 nights of gifts, and there's none of like the BS around the myth of Santa. It's just like, oh yeah, our parents give us gifts. There's no like trying to like be like Santa gave you a gift, and then when you're, you know, at a certain age, you find out that there is no Santa. There's none of that. It's just like, yeah, there's no Santa. It's just our parents.
I wasn't really fooled by Santa for too long.
It is kind of harmless. I don't think it's a big deal that you lie to your kids until Santa brings your presents.
Even though we had someone come in as Santa, I don't think I ever truly believed that there was a Santa Claus. My parents never really said that. We didn't get gifts from Santa. It was like from mom and dad.
It is kind of comical to us, obviously. I mean, as a child, I knew he wasn't real. Like, I just had more sense. And my son was the same way. But I had to tell him because he goes to, you know, school where a lot of kids believe in Santa. So when he was little, I'd have to say, like, he would say to me, like, how do they not know that that's not real? You know, and I was like, okay, they just don't. Their parents, why do their parents, you know, and your kids are asking you questions like, why are your parents lying to them? I'm like, it's tradition.
I can't remember a time where I ever like believed that like someone, you know, is delivering children gifts all over the world. I mean, maybe when I was like really little, but it was never like something that was taught to me or told to me.
I don't know where that came from. I mean, obviously Saint Nicholas was a person.
I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and we're raising them to believe Santa Claus is real. We're also sharing the story of who Saint Nicholas was. So for me, there's gonna come a time when my kids are gonna become aware of that reality. And at that moment, I'm gonna have an opportunity to pivot to a real character.
Santa was a big thing, but the 3 wise men were probably even a bigger thing. In Puerto Rico, there's a celebration actually in the town of Juana Diaz. You know, every year, you know, 3 men that look like they could be kings. They dress up, they ride around the village and come bearing gifts. At night, we place some grass underneath the bed. We do that so that the camels would have something to eat. And then in return, the three wise men would have gifts for the children. It's in Spanish, it's Los Tres Reyes Magos.
We paint our Santas black. And I remember every year my mom couldn't find any black Santas. And she's like, oh, he's not real anyway. He can be whatever we want him to be. And I'm like, your mom, like, you're right. Like, Santa's whoever we want him to be. And screw old Saint Nick. And we would we would paint our Santas black and put them all around the house, getting Santa Claus, getting some brown nail polish. Why couldn't he? I was like, this is a made up guy anyway. Why couldn't he be? Who says? So, yeah. I have not celebrated Kwanzaa yet. I have been to a Kwanzaa celebration though. I thought you had to be African to celebrate. I was like, well, I'm not like African, so can I actually celebrate it? It's hard for me to tie myself to African traditions because to me, I was born in America. I'm very much like American. With Kwanzaa, I think it'll give me the opportunity to have a taste of that African culture because it originated in America by African American. So I'm like, I can get into this. It was about an hour or so before Christmas Eve, and this car just started opening fire. My dad pushed my brother out of the way, and he got struck in his arm, and I believe it traveled into his chest. He died on the scene. With my father passing away right before Christmas Eve, it does make the holidays harder. It's that sadness of those days approaching, but then Christmas comes and you're reminded, we have each other and, we serve a God that got us through this and that will continue to get us through this.
The joy is something that's even more important for me this year. This is my first Christmas as a father, which is really exciting for me. I have a 7-month-old son, and he's been amazing, and it's really exciting to celebrate this time with him.
We'll cut the tree down together, bring it back to the house, and decorate, and do that. So now my fond Christmas memories are with my kids, and we have all of our traditions.
We've found a way, since my wife and I were married and then had kids, to involve both sides of the family with our own children and keeping those traditions. I hope we can continue those traditions.
At least half of my family lives in Puerto Rico, on the island of Puerto Rico. They actually hold on to tradition. When my family first moved here from Puerto Rico, they held on tight. I remember always getting together at my grandmother's house. We would sing carols in Spanish, and I remember instruments being brought out, some alcoholic beverages too. But over the years, it's gradually went away. The singing the carols, the opening the gifts on Christmas Eve, that was a tradition we used to have. That's not the case anymore. But in Puerto Rico, you feel it. It's unfortunate because if that young generation isn't taught to hold on to these traditions, it's just gonna go away.
Sometimes people bring their friends, so it could be like 40 people in someone's house for Christmas. And every year the family gets bigger and bigger and there's always more babies, so it kind of just keeps growing every year. So every time I told people that I got together with my family on Christmas Eve and waited around till midnight for Santa Claus to come, no one had any idea what that meant. Most people go to sleep early on Christmas Eve so that they can wake up even earlier on Christmas Day. But our celebrations kind of last multiple days.
Anything that brings that family together, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Easter, whatever those traditions they can hold on to, getting together on Thanksgiving, getting together on Christmas Day, getting together on Easter Sunday. That part of Christmas is good. getting the families together, and even if it's just to have a meal, you know.
The Christmas season, it's very important to remember love in every aspect of it. The commercial aspect of Christmas is one that kind of has taken over.
It's moved from a December holiday to a September through December holiday.
Everybody's worrying about buying gifts, and with Black Friday and Black Friday turning into shopping on Thanksgiving.
And it starts in September, the commercials for the newest this or that, and it's just over and over and over and over, and it gets to be November and my whole mood just shifts.
We have Black Friday, which is this time where Christians even will participate in bullying people to get the best thing you can get, or, you know, trying to get to the front of the line.
Kind of hypocritical to be like, hey, everybody give thanks, now run out and go shopping.
Like even in my family, some of my family members will leave on Thanksgiving to go in order to wait in line.
I have family members who work in retail. We have, for the last few years, now that everything's open on Thanksgiving, haven't been able to do Thanksgiving dinner.
People tend to forget that because they're so busy and they're thinking about what they want to buy for their loved ones and the commercial parts of Christmas, but it really comes down to loving one another, and that's why you buy gifts for each other. So Christmas is a time to reconnect and really share that love, and if that's giving gifts, then I see nothing wrong with that.
In certain ways, Christmas is pushed as this consumer idea, which is definitely not a good thing, I don't think.
That's what capitalism, and they find a way to make money off of everything. So Easter now is a big, consumer's holiday, and so is Christmas.
But I've added to that because I'm out there, finding deals. I've done the Black Friday shopping myself.
We can chase after all this. We can have this greed in our heart, and we can lean into that. But it often isn't satisfying.
I try to get more thoughtful gifts and do less shopping. Create something. That's something a little bit more meaningful. Last year for my mother, I made a scrapbook for her. Something cool, that remind our family members, our loved ones that we care.
We were never taught to be bratty, and whether you hated something or not, you just were thankful that you got something from someone.
I think there's a way to navigate the consumerism without greed.
Christmas is about family and being together and love and all those things. And when you push consumerism, it kind of forces this materialistic idea that isn't necessarily a proactive thing, and it doesn't teach children the right things sometimes.
I think that takes away from the actual spirit of Christmas.
It's indoctrinated in our kids, what am I going to get?
I guess the way of saying it is the two can't be divorced from each other, I think, in our culture. They're clearly intertwined, and that's the difficult thing as we navigate how we interact with Christmas.
People have lost the idea of the birth of Christ, it's Santa Claus, and it all drives me crazy.
Although we see Christmas as a Christian holiday, it was never forced down our throat that it needed to be only about Jesus Christ. Like I said, we have an uncle that dresses up as Santa Claus, so it doesn't really bother me that much.
I think we are held captive by advertising, and we don't have enough advertising about, the keeping Christ in Christmas. We're celebrating the birth of Christ. We're not celebrating how many gifts we get. I struggle like everybody else does. I may be preaching about certain things, and yet what comes out of my preaching is my own struggles that I'm having. As a pastor, I don't profess to know it all, to have it all figured out. It bothers me that it still affects me that way. But I'm getting better. I'm recovering.
I think that people who go out to the stores and they see someone say Merry Christmas to someone, or they see someone take time to donate money to a Salvation Army kit or something like that, they get that small glimpse of what it means to celebrate Christmas without all the commercialism and make it a more personal holiday where the birth of Christ really is in the center of it.
Luke 12, Jesus is confronted by two brothers. These two brothers are arguing about who gets the inheritance, who gets the most of the inheritance. And Jesus is kind of like, who made me the arbiter between you guys of who gets what? That's not my role. And then he turns over to the disciples and says a warning against greed. He says, life is not found in an abundance of possessions. And so he says, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Christmas is this season where we're supposed to focus on Christ, focus on the birth of Christ, focus on the coming of Christ. Yet we do focus on Black Friday. We focus on consumerism. We focus on football. We focus on, whatever, fill in the blank that removes our eye off Christ and places it in a consumeristic context, which would seem to be the exact opposite thing you would want to do with a holiday celebrating Jesus, who seemed to be the least concerned with consumerism.
There are people that celebrate the holidays or may celebrate Christmas, but all for different reasons. I know plenty of people that celebrate Christmas that aren't religious. I'm not going to look down on the next person who decides to celebrate Christmas.
I think in this case, if you're thinking of Christmas as a time to be with family, a time to be with friends, time to celebrate happiness and hope and faith and new life and all that stuff, I think those are good things regardless of what your religious affiliation is.
My name is Rabia Khan and I'm a Muslim American. It was never like a huge deal, but we did have Christmas dinner, I think even last year, and we got crackers and, it was just the time because the family's all off. And we figure, why not get together and have a nice meal, Yeah, I don't see it as partaking in the religious holiday, but more of the time of year. I think it's just a festive time of year. My dad bought a sign, a garden sign, and it was like an angel, and I think it said peace on earth. So he went out one winter, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and he staked this, and he was wearing traditional like Indian clothing, like, the long dress and the pants that men wear, which women wear too. So he's out there and he stakes the sign, and then he comes in and he's like, happy holidays, in this like accent. And it was so funny. I thought, oh my God, talk about assimilation. Like, it's like assimilation gone wrong. Like, it was so funny, and he was so sad when that sign like got destroyed and some storm came and just like the whole thing broke. But try to say I celebrate the New Year, which is why I have the decorations up. So I do a New Year's party every year. And since it's around that time, I just figure I'd start early with the decorations. And my family, jokes about, yeah, we know what the decorations are for. But, it's pretty. I like sparkly things, so.
My wife and I will go and we'll see the sweet lights at Hershey, where they, the big light installations. We'll go to the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center.
I took them to New York City. I wanted them to see the lights and like the tree. We went ice skating and stuff.
I know some Christians that celebrate Christmas and don't hang up a tree.
I know of people grew up Jewish, had a Christmas tree. Like, that exists.
I do have friends who are non-Christian, and they have trees in their homes. I have Muslim relatives who put trees up.
It was just like, oh yeah, we have a tree, like everyone else in our town has a tree. Like, we had a tree growing up. I was like, okay, I guess that's a thing.
Ultimately, I know why we celebrate Christmas, and that it is about, the day Jesus was born. But for some people who may just grow up like Christmas is just a time where we get presents and we get together.
My niece will get Christmas presents for her friends, at the holidays. And so she's a Muslim too, but she just feels like she wants to give her friends gifts, and they give her gifts too, knowing that she doesn't celebrate. With more and more immigrants in this country, I think they see it as a cultural thing. I don't think they necessarily will go to church, but they'll decorate and they'll give gifts, and I think it's for the same reason. I think they just want their children to feel kind of included and not so much like outsiders.
There's some positives to that, so yeah, I'm excited that they're celebrating it because, again, for me, it was a time of joy with my family, and I look at families that aren't Christian, that are, or even that are Christian, that are dealing with hard times, difficult times, and they rarely do pause and have time together where they're actually focused on one another.
I'm living in this country. I've only ever lived in a non-Muslim country, and I don't see the harm in it. Like, if my son sees us celebrating New Year's and people are coming over and we're having a good time and it's nothing like bad going on, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how that would be teaching him something wrong. I have a strong religious identity. I don't have a problem telling people I'm Muslim. I don't have a problem practicing my faith in this country, thank God, yet. I don't feel like I have to fit in. My parents have a neighbor who's always like, hey, where are your lights? Where are your lights? And my dad's like, my sign broke. But my mom's like, I don't have to put up lights. She's like, and she'll tell her, she's like, I'm not a Christian. I don't have to put up lights this time of year. She's like, I'll put up lights when it's Eid. They understand that you can live in this country. You don't have to do everything that everybody's doing. And differences are okay.
My best friend is an atheist. He doesn't believe in God. But I always invite him when it comes to the holidays, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, January 6th, that's the Three Kings Day, I invite him over to celebrate with our family because, you know, it's more than just religious for us. It's a time to come together. It's a time to really celebrate and be thankful for each other. It's like Thanksgiving to be continued for me.
This is a unique experience, a unique time where the divine becomes human. That to me is something we should celebrate. And not all people are going to celebrate that, but they will still celebrate Christmas in the cultural context of what Christmas is.
Humans are supposed to continuously evolve and adapt.
Giving back, of love, of being with family, being good to each other. That as a takeaway, as like the spirit of Christmas. That I get with and I can understand and appreciate in the holiday.
Cultural climate or the landscape is going to change over time, obviously. I mean, Native Americans had no idea this country was going to become what it became, right? Like, so people come and they stay and they, you know, bring new ideas and new traditions and new beliefs. I think all of that enriches the landscape. I've never understood people who feel so threatened by that.
Happiness or excitement, that's an emotion, but joy is something that you can carry throughout your life on a daily basis.
No one's going to take away your Christmas, no one's going to take away your tree, no one's going to take away Santa. They're all there, you know, and centuries later, look, they're still here, so.
And it has eight candles, 8 spots for candles, and then the oh man, I can't remember. This is bad. My Jew card is going out the window now because I don't know this.